Nietzsche once said that he who has a why can bear almost any how. I understand this now. I spent the last 9 months working on a product for my clients. It's called Easy Grow. Don't worry, I'm not here to try and sell you something, but I'm here to try and teach you something that I've learned recently. So I spent the last 9 months of my life basically raising a product, and it's taken me about 2,100 hours to complete. And it was probably the worst thing I've ever done in my life in terms of difficulty, energy expenditure, burnout, mental stress, mental strain. It's the worst thing I've done by a long shot. And I've done some things before that have stretched me, i.e. building 2 companies to 7 and more 7 figures. But this product build's the hardest thing I've ever done. My name's Charlie Morgan. I built and scaled 2 businesses. One of them was called Northflow Consulting. It's a marketing agency. You can go and look it up if you want. We signed over 350 clients. We got to 7 figures. We then eventually moved towards a coaching company called Imperium Acquisition, which is currently a multi-7-figure coaching business. We're on the road to 8 figures. My current goal, the entire objective of my reality or life or consciousness, is to scale a consulting company to 8 figures. And that's where my attention has been. That's been the focal point of my attention for the last really year and a half. What I've realized is that it's possible to scale to 8 figures without having your house in order. When I say house in order, what I mean by that is the quality of the thing you're actually selling to get you there. So products are vehicles for commercial success, and you can ride a product by selling it. And by ride, I mean the product is the horse, right? And you are the jockey. And here's the thing, like to run fast or to look like you're running fast, to win the race in the short term, you can have a pretty bad horse, which is very counterintuitive. But a lot of people have bad horses and they build businesses around products that are subpar and suboptimal. And I'm sure that you've been well aware of this because you've probably bought a product from an online coach or consultant before, a 997 course or something, someone that's doing really well, someone that's probably making a lot of money, and you were impressionable, you purchased something from them because you perceived they had authority because they were making a lot of money. You thought they were going to teach you the ways. You bought the ways only to find out that the jockey was riding a bad horse. But here's the thing about horses, right? In the short term, you can get away with riding a bad horse, one that's a bit ragged, one that, is pretty suboptimal for winning a long race. But in the long term, if you want to win, you need your horse to be new and healthy and fresh, right? That's how I've been looking at my company recently. Warren Buffett says that in order for you to succeed in business, you need to have what he calls a moat. And a moat is obviously pretty self-explanatory. It's that big body of water that you're going to build around a castle to prevent intruders from entering the castle and pillaging the village and, taking the crown. And if Warren Buffett says it, it's good enough for me. So, I've been thinking on this for a long time, like what is the moat for Imperium Acquisition? Now, what's the thing that we use to defend ourselves? For about a month, I sat with this question, like what is my moat? What's the thing that I can actually use to keep intruders at bay and hold the crown, right? The problem with the current online marketing space is that people's moats are very emulatable. And I'm not sure if that's a word that I've just made up, but the word emulate means to copy. And, if your moat is something that can be copied, then it's not a moat, because if there's an opposing castle and they realize that they can just copy and paste your moat to their castle, then they have the same advantage as you, which usually means that your advantage becomes a disadvantage, or at least neutral. It's no longer an advantage. So I sat with this question for a long time until I realized that, like, what's one thing that people can't copy? And I realized that it's pain. And this sounds really strange, but let me break this down for you. The product that I've built, the new one that we're releasing on the 7th of February, so a week from me recording this, so probably a couple of days from when you're watching this, is called Easy Grow. And Easy Grow is a program designed to make client acquisition easy. As of me recording this, we have 280 videos. We've got 6 or 7 different individual courses. I won't show it to you now, I'll do a reveal later on. But essentially, it's by far the most advanced, detailed, and comprehensive product ever made on client acquisition. I'm telling you now, nothing comes close. You could take every other course in the market, combine them into one, and it still wouldn't supersede what we have created in value. Now, obviously, I'm biased. I recognize that because it's my creation. And if you ask a mother if her son's the fastest boy in school, she's probably going to say it's her son, because it's just what you do with your kids. And that's what I'm looking at Easy Grow as, because it took me 9 months to fucking build it. I've been through the gestation period. My trimesters are over and it's done. That was strange, but you get the point, right? Anyway, back to this moat thing. So I was thinking about this for a long time. And what do I mean by pain? Well, I realized that in order to create advantage, you have to create things inside of your business that people can't copy. And here's the thing about my product, right? Someone could buy the product and they could try and copy it, but the levels of suffering they would have to go through and the hoops and the fire they'd have to walk through to build something even remotely close to what we've created is so significant that I don't think anyone would be able to do it. And so I basically put myself through a test or a trial by fire, right, over the last 9 months. And I don't want this video to see like I'm virtue signaling, because I don't want that to be the case. But what I'm trying to do is give you information that I've just uncovered that's helping me get to 8 figures, right? Or at least I think. And so, I set myself this challenge of building this product. And I've had help from team members, from third parties, from clients of ours. My business partner, Bose, played a huge role in it. But ultimately, I've spent 9 months in this room here, right, locked away on my computer. I even bought a fucking walking treadmill and a standing desk so that I could exercise whilst at working. I sacrificed pretty much everything. I think I've probably seen 5 friends in the last 9 months. I actually stopped going to the gym for a period of time as well, just so I could wake up and get straight to work. I've dropped a lot of other habits that were particularly healthy that I'm picking back up now that it's finished. But basically, I put myself through 9 months of suffering on a level that I didn't initially believe I could comprehend or even withstand, right? And it all sounds like, oh, but Charlie, you're just building a course. You go and try and build a course. Most people can't even make a 10-minute YouTube video without pulling their hair out. There was one module in the program called Acquisition Genesis. It took me 600 hours to make it. For every hour of training in Acquisition Genesis, I put 20 to 30 hours into. So I would spend on Acquisition Genesis, like an entire week for each module. So we've got like 3.5 hour long videos on systems thinking, and it would take me 4 or 5 days of 12-hour a day thinking and mapping out to create it. What I'm trying to say here is, like, if you want to win, and if you want to own a market, and if you want to monopolize a field of commerce, right, such as client acquisition, the only way to do that is by having a moat. When someone comes knocking on your castle doors, they can't knock on the doors. They can't get to the drawbridge because there's such a fucking big body of water in the way. And the only way to build something like that, in my opinion, is the product. Because now I know what it takes to compete with me. I'm much more relaxed because I know that if someone wants to compete with me, they have to do it on a product level. In the long term, the long race with the horses, the only horse that wins is the healthy one that might not look, it doesn't necessarily in the short term look the healthiest, but in the long term, it has the most longevity to it. Yeah, so if you want to win, you have to have the best product. The thing about the online space here is that you can win in the short term over a 1 to 2, maybe even 5-year time horizon. You can win with subpar product. When someone comes along who has a product that supersedes everybody else's in the market combined, and the value that is created by that into the market is exceptional, and that person comes along, they might not have the flashiest marketing. They might not have the biggest budget or the fanciest equipment. They might not have the biggest audience or the biggest reach, but you give that person 10 years, you give them a decade in the market, and they will crush everyone. And I've always been one for long-term thinking, and I've always been one to strategize and comprehend time horizons that exceed 3 to 5 years. So when I'm making decisions for my business and what I should be working on, I'm not looking at the next 6 months. Because here's the thing, right? With the current version of our product, which, the current one we have, which we've been selling for 18 months, we could scale to 8 figures. We could ramp up the price, right? It still works and it's still really valuable. And it's ironically, it's still one of the best products. If anything, the best. We've got 220 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. We've got dozens and dozens of client testimonials and interviews, and it works incredibly well. But what I could have done for the last 9 months is focus on marketing and everything like that, and making better content, making more YouTube videos, and just doing ads and all that stuff. And I could have done that for the last 9 months. And right now I could be in a position where I'm making 600, 700 grand a month as opposed to 300 or 400, right? But I've sacrificed that short-term growth and gratification because I know that the 9 months I've just spent building that product, the dividends and the rewards that I will reap and the dividends that I will be able to receive from that work as opposed to working on the marketing stuff is significantly greater in the long term, in the time horizons that I work with. So I'm thinking about 10 years. And I was sitting down and I was like, what sort of moat can I create? Because, originally the previous moats that I've had in business have revolved around outreach strategies or acquisition channels. So I uncovered my Loom system, famous Loom system that I created, right? And we use that to grow our agency. But then word starts to spread, and then slowly but surely your advantage might still be strong, but it's significantly weaker than it was before. What you have to think about is he who has a why can bear any how. It's what I said at the start of the video, right? People don't put themselves through 9 months of extreme suffering suffering for no reason. So when I was making this program, I burned myself out 4 or 5 times to the point where I actually had to just spend entire days in bed because I actually couldn't get up. I was so fried cognitively from all this thinking that I was just exhausted. Not only that, but I've actually got like problems that I need to rebuild. Like a lot of my friends I haven't seen in like a long time. There's been other stuff going on in my life that I've just completely neglected because of this thing, and that's painful. But the thing is like when you establish a mission for your company and when your business is more about like solving a huge problem and becoming the best in 20-30 years, you start to think differently, because my business is no longer a vehicle for my material gain or for my ego. Right? Because that's usually what a business is when you begin, is you start because of some negative emotion towards yourself or towards other people. You want people to perceive you to be better, and you just want to make some money so you can have some fun. That's usually what happens, right? But once you satisfy those drives and desires, as I have done many times over in the last couple of years, it becomes extremely difficult to maintain linear or even non-linear exponential business growth when there's no psychological motivation pushing the founder of the business to actually expand. I believe the key to that sort of 9-month period that I've been through, that building phase, the phase of pure pain, which is greater than anything I've ever experienced before work-wise, is to love what you do. It's very hard to work hard on something that you don't love. And this is mirrored perfectly by people you see who consistently like self-sabotage themselves. Here's the thing, like people get this all messed up because I'm not saying that you need to love what you do to work. Because initially, if you're building a company, first like 1 or 2 years, they're going to be really difficult and you're not going to love the work at all. You're going to hate your niche. You're going to hate your mentor for telling you to get into it. You're going to hate yourself. Everything's not fun in the first couple of years. But my point is that once you've taken yourself out of first world poverty, right? And what I mean by first world poverty is you then have enough money to say fuck you to everyone and go where the hell you want, whenever you want. You have no boss. You have financial security through yourself and your own responsibilities as opposed to other people. Like when you've done that and Maslow's hierarchy of needs is met, you self-actualize financially and you no longer have anyone to tell you what to do, and you are responsible and free, because that's really where freedom comes from, is personal responsibility, which is a story for another day. When that's happened, you need something else to keep you going. So it's like momentum, right? If you imagine your business as a car and the acceleration, you putting your foot on the gas or you accelerating initially in the first 1 to 2 years of business, you're accelerating with all of your psychological bullshit. And what I mean by that is all of this like drive, the anger at yourself for not making enough money, the anger at people for laughing at you for being broke, or the terror of having to live a normal life and having a 9 to 5. Like we start businesses not because of normal, rational, objectively reasonable reasons. There's always hatred or some sort of negative emotion. Seldom are we motivated to move towards things, because usually we're more motivated to move away from things. So people project this 10 grand a month goal and they think, oh, I want to get 10 grand a month. It's like, no, you don't. You just want to get away from 1 grand a month. People are like, I want my own business and I want to make 6 figures. It's like, well, you think you want that, but the reason you want that is because you don't want what you currently have right now. So it's much easier to be motivated by that stuff. So anyway, back to the car thing. So when you're accelerating with negative emotion, typically, once you have satisfied the drive and the desire that you set out to satisfy. So for example, let's say that growing up, your family was really poor, you got really angry at the world, and you wanted to make enough money so you could pay for your parents' mortgage, and you feel financially secure. Once you've locked that in, all of the initial drive and motivation that you had to build things stops. So for the first year or two, your car is fueled by like the fossil fuel of rage, essentially, or anxiety or insecurity or fear. And you might not think it is, but if you look hard enough, you will find that. It's ugly, but it's true. And the problem is like over time, as the car speeds up to the point at which you've achieved escape velocity from your previous situation, emotional poverty that you were in before, the trauma, the vacuum, whatever it was you were trying to get away from, the car slows down. And then the problem with the car slowing down is if the car slows down and stops, then everything that you were trying to run away from catches up with you. So it's kind of like if you're running a business and you're driving a car and you're accelerating, like you have to realize that there's another car behind you. It's like Subway Surfer. When you play Subway Surfer and there's like a security guard chasing the guy, right? That's your past, okay? So when you're driving the car and you're moving it forward and you're accelerating and trying to get away from this old situation, that old situation is on your tail. It's haunting you. And so if you stop and you just let the car slow down and that's it, and bang, no more driving. If you look back, you're going to see that past is creeping up because it wants to catch up with you. That's how the world works, right? And so the point here that I'm trying to make with the whole long-term thinking thing is once you've satisfied the base drives and desires, and you feel more emotionally in tune because you have manifested a reality that aligns with a sense of like emotional urgency. Once you've manifested that, you need a reason to keep fucking going. And so this is where it comes into the fact that he who has a why can bear almost any how. And so what I'm trying to say is, once you've built your life the way you want it to, first couple of years of business, that is what I call a personal mission. You're creating something for yourself, and typically no larger than yourself. And for as long as you are self-motivated, it's very difficult to build something that is any bigger than you, because your motivation, and I use motivation, it's a very fickle sort of thing. I'm talking more about drive. But if you take your motivation, if it's just for you, then you're only going to build something for you. And because you are finitely constrained as a universal entity, there's not really much to grow around you. There's only so much money you can make before, you're not going to have a huge impact. And so the second that my motivation shifted away from me to other people, that's when I started to really, that's when the foot was on the gas, and the foot never comes off the gas. Because, initially when you start a business, you're trying to solve personal problems, right? You want to escape a situation, you want to build something for yourself. You get to a point where you've done that. And then when that happens, because it will, if you've got enough motivation and emotion behind it, either that or you become bitter and poor, which you don't want. But when you've achieved that, it's like you need to level your motivation up and go beyond yourself and become selfless in your incentive, which is very hard to do. And most people fail. And that's why most people plateau. It's why most people, they hit like a specific thing and then they never go beyond that. It's usually because they're motivated internally, and once the motivation is achieved, there's no reason to keep going. So my solution to this in my company was to create a vision, and the company then becomes the vehicle to the facilitation or manifestation of that vision, right? That's the objective. And so I have this big, North Star, Polaris Star, the thing that's guiding me. If you're wondering what that is for my company, it's to make client acquisition easy. Like, that is my objective. And I see a problem, and there's a massive injustice in the market right now where perfectly talented entrepreneurs or perfectly motivated good people who want to build businesses to escape realities and they hate, and they want to help people, right? Because you're a good person, right? You're not starting this business out of some sort of malice. You're not Mr. Burns, or you're not some awful person who wants to create an oil company and start killing polar bears. You probably just want to make your life better, take responsibility for people you love, have some freedom and some fun, and help people in the process. That's your motivation. And the fact that client acquisition is the main obstacle or barrier between exactly what you want to achieve, which as far as I'm concerned is very pure and good, but client acquisition prevents you from doing that. So my objective is to remove this obstacle from people such as yourself, and by doing that, I'm able to make the world a better place and have some sort of impact. And so my motivation now goes way above and beyond personal gain, and it's way more about impact or making a dent on the world, right? Because I used to think this with my old gym marketing agency. We'd make money and we'd get clients, but what brought me way more satisfaction and joy with the work was the people we introduced to the gyms. Because I know if I introduced 1,000 people, even if I introduced 10 people to a gym, 6 or 7 of them would go into the gym, and maybe 2 or 3 of them would buy the membership, and then maybe 1 of them would actually stick it out and change their life. And that's what I started working for, was the people whose lives I could change. And so now when I wake up at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning, and I've got 12 hours of critical thinking, project development, and recording to do for my product, if I haven't got like a really fucking good reason to get out of bed to get on with that, then I'm not going to do it. And I can't pull internal motivations from myself and say, hey mate, come on, because this is the way that you're going to make that extra million, because I've got enough money. I don't need more stuff. I have the car I want. I live in a very comfortable house. I don't need anything else. So I can't at 6 a.m. in the morning remind myself of, oh yeah, but you're working towards this new C63S AMG. It doesn't matter, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't need it, right? So you have to ask yourself, well, what am I doing here? Like, he who has a why can bear any how. So what is your why? And this is a question that is extremely hard to answer. But I can tell you that initially your why will be to do with some sort of negative emotion. It will be to do with proving people wrong, and you're going to find it. And when you get really reflective, you'll find something that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. My why at the beginning with my business was rejection, right? I was awful with women. I'd never had like a proper girlfriend, and I was well aware of the fact that I was broke and that women didn't really like guys that were broke, or at least not the women that I wanted, right? And so that was my motivation for a very long period of time in my life. The reason I started my first business was to get girls. And I was deeply insecure, and I was deeply worried and anxious about like my sex life and with women and stuff. And I'm being transparent with you here, right? It can be uncomfortable to hear and say, but ultimately it wasn't until I realized that, like, why am I doing all this work? Oh yeah, for pussy. And then when you come to terms with these dark motivations, you can align your actions to actually enable you to achieve them. And the irony is I found that once I achieved it, like it was fine, right? And then I was able to achieve that thing that I wanted, right? The long story short here is you're going to fall into two categories, and 80% of you will fall into the first one, which is you're motivated by something dark. You need to find out what that motivation is, and you need to listen to it, because emotions are parts of ourselves, unconscious parts of ourselves, segments of our character that can't talk to us, right? So an emotion is a deep part of you, a deep part of you trying to communicate. And so if you've got a sense of anger or rage or anxiety or insecurity, and for some reason that is pushing you towards a company and building a business and manifesting a reality that is typically abnormal or idiosyncratic in respect to conventional society, then you need to dig into that. You need to find out what's going on, because if you can actually connect with that drive, nothing is more fucking powerful. Connecting with an internal drive like that, as far as I'm concerned, is like striking oil if you're digging for oil. So you need to see your mind as like an oil field, and you're looking for reasons as to why you need to do the work. And what you're doing is you're going to one part of the mind and you're drilling down, and you drill down by asking why enough times. Like, why do I feel this? Why does that make me feel like that? Why? Until you get to the bottom of the fact that maybe, when you were 5 years old, your dad told you couldn't have anything for your birthday because he had no money. Something like that. Well, just if you go far enough and you dig into enough points of the mind, you will strike oil. And when you strike that oil, you can use that oil as fuel. You can barrel it up, and you can take it into work, and bang, you will once you find it, bang. So that was something that I've learned. And once you have dug up the oil, the personal motivation, you need to find another source of energy, because the thing about oil is that it's not renewable. It's not sustainable, right? You're going to dig up that oil, and once you keep digging and digging and digging, probably going to get where you are. And by the time you get where you are, the reserves will be emptied. And if you're not careful, your past will catch up with you, as it does. And so you need to then start looking for other sources of clean, renewable energy. And that's one way to look at it as a metaphor. You need a source of energy that isn't going to go away for 30, 40, 50 years. You want a source of energy that isn't going to go away for the rest of your lifetime. And truthfully, the only source of energy you can get, psychologically, like that, is going to be something like a big vision or a big problem. So you see an injustice in the world. You see a group, like this is my example. I see a group of people, young entrepreneurs who want to make something of themselves, who are miserable, they're depressed, they're very unhappy, and all they want is to live a better life for themselves so they can take care of their family and help other people in the process. There's a massive group of those people. They try to do that, then they run into this big problem of client acquisition, and that stops them from manifesting the goodness inside of them. That is why I spend 2,000 hours building product. That is why I'm willing to take myself to the point of burnout 4 or 5 times. That is why in the last 6 months I've started to develop a little nervous twitch where I'm sort of like twitching around because I've been working so much. And I know that health-wise it's not sustainable to work extremely hard and take yourself to points at which you burn out. And I appreciate that. And I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but sometimes you just have to do it and face the consequences, deal with the stuff you've created later, deal with all the mess. And that's what I'm doing now. I thought that when I finished the recording, I'd be able to relax and calm down, but I've never felt more on edge and stressed and exhausted, and that's natural. So I understand that. But this is the point, is it's very difficult for your unconscious and conscious mind to justify sacrifice if the reason for the sacrifice isn't significant. Okay. So that's something I've learned, and it's something I wanted to add to my YouTube video journal, so to speak. And yeah, I hope you derive some value from it. There's no real moral of the story. It's just, this is what I've been working on. This is where my mind is at the moment. And I'm hoping that by sharing this with you, something resonates, something clicks, or maybe I answer some questions or help you deal with some problems you're facing. Because that's really what I'm here to do. I want to make client acquisition easy. So that's that. If by chance you are struggling with client acquisition, you can click the first link in the description. I don't want to sit here and, try and pitch you anything. I'll let the funnel do the talking. So you don't have to schedule a call. I don't care if you book a call or if you decide to buy our product or not. The main thing I care about is you making decisions that are right for your company. And ultimately, if you can't get clients, we can solve that problem for you, as we have done at this point for about 500 people. So it's pretty serious shit, but you can check it out if you want. And yeah, if you like the video, there's a button that you can click to denote that you liked it. It helps the algorithm show you more videos like this that you might denote value from in the future, as opposed to shitty YouTube shorts of people on yachts. You can comment any stuff you want to comment below. And also if you subscribe, it would really make me smile. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.